Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News and I'm Faisal Rehman from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about the economic challenges for the upcoming government of Pakistan Muslim League, Pakistan People's Party, JUIF, ANP, MQM, BAP and God knows what and what not. I mean, all these consortium of like, let's say 13, 14 parties. But remember that they have ousted Imran Khan on poor economic performance. But currently, if you look at the data of today, it's unbelievable. The kind of payments in dollars that you have to give either for the principal amount or for the interest, that is unbelievable. During the last 9 months, almost 10 billion US dollars have been paid, another 2.4 during the next coming 3 months rather, or the next quarter. So you can well imagine what kind of a pressure dollar is going to go through. Number one, recently the State Bank of Pakistan raised the interest rate by 250 basis points. That's 2.5%, just imagine. And now again hovering around a double-digit mark. What exactly is going to happen? Obviously, less money available for the businessmen, for the business community in particular, for the investor, and perhaps they would try to show a decent growth rate, but that seems to be impossible. Talking about the energy crisis, talking about the upcoming budget, you talk about the increasing trade deficit, you talk about the kind of pressure at the domestic level from the opposition that is going to be there on the upcoming government. That is going to be a problem and a half. You talk about so many other factors. Go through any particular area and you'll see that there is chaos, there is a problem, there is an absolute financial crunch and things are not that bad. Today, I'm not sure whether it's true or not, but there was a story that the non-resident Pakistanis or the overseas Pakistanis as we call them, they've taken out $1.8 billion from the Roshan Pakistan program. What is going to happen as far as those programs which were launched by Prime Minister Imran Khan, whether it's SARS or Saeed card or otherwise, I mean, though it's a program of BISP. But having said that, what exactly is going to happen? What happened to the programs initiated by Prime Minister of Pakistan during 13 and 18? That was Mia Mohammad Nawaz Sharif Saab. And God knows what has happened to them. There was a lot of money, over ₹1 billion allocated for that, but I've got no clue what exactly is happening. What will happen to the programs launched by the previous government? God knows. So at the end of the day, back to square one. So how to start now? Before I introduce you to our panelists, our production team has prepared a report. Let's watch that first.
Along political uncertainty and turmoil in Pakistan has finally taken a decisive turn and has taken the nation towards a direction in which a smart economic policy adoption could bring a fresh hope for the debilitating economy of Pakistan. Though stabilizing the economy will be a challenge for the new government as the crippling debt, soaring inflation and a depreciating currency cumulatively stagnated the economic growth of Pakistan for last 3 years. Hence, comprehensive measures will be needed to cater to the inflation which is running at over 12% and the foreign debt which has reached $130 billion or 43% of GDP needs. On the other hand, the $6 billion IMF bailout package which was signed by Imran Khan in 2019, though never fully implemented, will be another challenge for the new government as the continuation of IMF package is integral for managing the declining economic condition of the nation. Moreover, in order to take the country out of the economic challenges, the new government must focus on the export growth and injecting of new momentum into the economy through prioritizing industrializing processes and improving the corporate agricultural policy. Last but not the least, the government will have to complete the special economic zones on war footings and support these special economic zones through comprehensive policy and regulations.
Now to talk about it, let me quickly introduce you to our panelists. We have with us in our studio on my right is Sardar Yasir Khan Saab, former president of Islamabad Chamber of Commerce and Industry and a leading businessman in Pakistan. Thank you very much, Yasir, for your time. And we have with us on Skype Amer Zafar Durrani Saab, president Reenergia World Bank. Thank you very much, Amer, for your presence. Pleasure to have you on the show. And we also have with us on Skype Abid Suleri Saab. He is the former member of the former Prime Minister Imran Khan's Economic Advisory Council. Thank you very much, Suleri Saab, for your presence as well, sir. Much appreciated. Now, sir, talking about, I mean, there's a long list. I mean, if I look at the economic indicators, you're not going to appreciate me for that because you're a businessman. At the end of the day, you don't want to see these numbers. But, sir, this is the reality. Whether good, bad or ugly, Imran Khan was there and then the corona epidemic for about 2.5 years, everything was closed almost to a halt. But now things started improving. Yes, there was pressure on the dollar for various reasons. There was political uncertainty in Pakistan that for any country would always yield negative results. But at the end of the day, now we know that Imran Khan is no more the Prime Minister. Most likely Shehbaz Sharif is going to get elected after, let's say, by the time this program is aired. And since he is known as a man who is a great administrator, but he's not an economist, he is somebody who will be seeking advice from his legal team, from his economic team and all. But so currently looking at this particular scenario, when you see a brutal kind of an opposition, whether it's 135 or it's 140 member opposition, but having said that, sir, things won't be that easy, and especially the upcoming budget. Let's start off from there, sir.
Look, I think first and foremost, as a civic citizen of Pakistan, as a concerned citizen, we must acknowledge, and I know the economy as well as my other business counterparts in Pakistan. The one thing I'll make it clear to everyone listening is Pakistan is not a poor country. And I would like to clarify in this forum that we're not beggars. We're never going to be. It's the circumstances.
So your Prime Minister, who's going to be your Prime Minister, said that beggars can't be choosers.
If
you're not beggars, you as an individual can't be. But sir, as a nation, aren't we?
We're not. That is his perception. If you look at the poverty rate of Pakistan, so you're looking at about 24%. And if you look at the world power, we talk about the US, the poverty rate is probably about 14%. So are we really that much worse off? We're not. It's about perception and the current circumstances and the dynamics of the country and what we've been put in, the position we've been put in. And this is not now. This has been there and has been happening. The presence has been set for many years. It's the collective liabilities that have been built. This is not a $6 billion program that we're talking about. There are trillions of liabilities, and if you look at the current reflection, it's visible from your foreign exchange reserves, which were in the range of about $20 billion. Like you rightly said, we have paid back, and we're still due to pay another $2.5 billion in the first quarter, so April, May. You're looking at another $2.4 billion going out, so we're currently standing at $11 billion, like much lower than what our neighbor Bangladesh has. So I think it's primarily where we've put the country in. So we're getting more loans to pay off the previous loans. And it makes no sense. So this is a catch-22 situation, and I think we've been put in a really bad and awkward position. And for that reason, I'm telling you, Pakistan itself could be in a lot better position now than it is, simply because of policies, lack of policies. In terms of where we're headed, look, I think there's two primary areas to look at for the coming government. They need to look at the geopolitical risk, geopolitical situation, especially the Afghanistan situation, and obviously our affairs with India. And secondly, the financial fallout, which is the way I see it, because currently there's a lack of consistency, which I've seen from transition of every government to the next government. And I think this is one thing which I would advise the incoming government to take into consideration, that there should be a consistency and continuity of policy, and that is going to ensure longevity. Because for a businessman, I need everything to continue the way it was. I mean, all of a sudden now you have the State Bank coming out and saying we're increasing the interest rate by 250 basis points, which has gone to about 12%. Any economy in the world cannot survive with that sort of interest rate. Businesses cannot grow. The economy is not going to expand. It is, in fact, going to contract. And that's something that I cannot afford as a businessman.
Do you think that this particular move by the State Bank of Pakistan to increase 2.5% interest rate or 250 basis points, as you just mentioned, do you think that is going to help in controlling the inflation? Is that the right approach or the right decision?
No, not at all. Look, globally, if you look at the scenario at the moment, there's a huge soar in prices with regards to sugar, oil, wheat, and gas. And similarly in Pakistan, there's a huge compounded lending cost which we're facing because of the significant duties. That is going to have an amplified effect on the end user and the manufacturers, because majority of the products that we use are imported. So raw materials are imported, the consumer goods are imported, because we're not focusing on manufacturing. So at the end of the day, your inflation is going to go higher, which as it is, as of today, we're looking at about 12% already. So it's significant. So your interest rate is not going to help. I mean, like I said, the economy is going to shrink. We're not going to have ample funds in the economy to use towards manufacturing, plant machinery to expand our businesses, to grow our volume, create more employment, and hence create the per capita GDP, which is what we need as of now. So I don't believe that this was an act of desperation from the State Bank of Pakistan, especially at a time when there was a transition in government. They knew this is going to happen, and now they're going to debate and negotiate how they're going to reverse the policy if it is ever going to be reversed with the new incoming government. So the incoming government has to look at all these factors, how we're going to stabilize Pakistan first and foremost. The withdrawals of funds is important, because we saw a record growth in terms of foreign remittances, where they went all the way up to about 29 billion, and we were expecting 31 billion. But the question is that going to stay? Is that going to continue? So those policies, where we look at the Russian digital account, and there's many more, like you mentioned, there's the Kamyab Jawan program, the Asas program, Koi Bhuga Nahi Soega, no one's going to sleep hungry at night program. So these were things that were going to benefit the average citizen of Pakistan. Are they going to continue? So all these questions are going to arise in every single local investor, every single local businessman, as well as the FDI aspect. You've got to induce foreign direct investment, and that is going to help the country grow. It is going to help the economy grow. And that's a question mark for everyone at the moment, that where are we headed moving forward?
I think that's a very important point that you've raised. Coming to you, Durrani Saab, one important factor, and that is perhaps about the economic policy of the incoming government. I think that is going to hold the key. Plus, whatever has happened during the last 3.5 years, good, bad or ugly, that's a separate chapter. But this particular political decision making, how important that is going to be, number one, and especially with such an opposition. I'm just giving you an example that I was reading that $1.8 billion that has been taken out by the overseas Pakistanis, which they had invested in the Pakistan-Russian program. A lot of people had a lot of trust in Imran Khan, so the remittances were on a high every year. But you never know the kind of protests that we have witnessed yesterday all over Pakistan, though there was a media blackout, but perhaps whatever happened in Dubai, Saudi Arabia, London, South Africa, USA, I mean, you name it. These are the people who are sending you the remittances. Now, do you think there's going to be some sort of a blow to the incoming remittances and people might shy away, or do you think the ability of the PMLN is of that standard where they can actually convince people, come up with policies that they can actually attract not only people who are sending in the remittances, the overseas Pakistanis, but perhaps also FDI coming in from European countries, from USA, perhaps from UK as well?
Well, thank you very much, Faisal. I hope you can hear me fine.
Perfectly fine. Go ahead.
Okay, excellent. So, I'm currently sitting in the UAE and just happened to be here, missed out on all the fun and politics that was happening there and the change we've gone through. But to be very honest, I mean, one of the advantages of sitting abroad is that you can actually look at things a little bit more objectively. And let's start with the remittances, right? Remember that we've done a lot of programs on remittances and what really has caused remittances to constantly increase, whereas the same did not hold true for Sri Lanka post-pandemic, but it has held true for Pakistan. Now, one of the things that has been posited, I mean, and I've mentioned it many times, and so have a lot of other colleagues, that it's not just the loyalty or the passion for an Imran government or a PTI government, but actually, could it not have been that because of the additional financial controls at the border and the FATF compliance, that we are actually seeing remittances flow in to basically take through formal channels, which are otherwise happening through informal channels. Mm-hmm. So, to be very honest, I mean, I'm not quite sure how the remittances will play out. I'll be very much educated by both my other colleagues, including Abid, on exactly what's going to happen. On FDI is a very short, long-term question for us to ask at this point, if you bear with me on that. Because I think if you look at it right now for an incoming government, I mean, they have to restore three kind of key things right now. I mean, we are basically going through a capital account problem. And within that capital account problem, we are looking at an external solvency issue and an internal solvency issue. Now, for the external solvency issue, and sorry, let me just complete the three things. So, looking at a capital account problem, external, internal solvency, we're looking at a problem basically in terms of private investment going towards basically non-value-added, non-productive. Now, despite
real
the
estate,
fact,
perhaps, yeah.
particularly talking about real estate. And number three, a stable politics and a sort of an atmosphere of social cohesion, which although is not a direct economic factor, but it's definitely a political economy factor, which I'll tell you why. So if you go back to the first one, and any incumbent government right now has to look at, are we looking to do it, what is, I mean, yesterday Asad Zaman said it very rightly in one of the webinars, a tactical retreat. And what do we mean by a tactical retreat? I mean, no matter how much we would like to do this, there is time now to seriously talk about capital controls, curbing foreign loans, import substitution, and export growth. Now, having said that, that does not really mean that I'm saying that we just go into a Neanderthal economic era, pre-liberal era, and basically start doing this. But we have to do this with some tacit understanding that we have to manage our capital account, right? So let's look at what is the government that's coming in, what is their policy. Now, if this is going to be Daronomics or Miftahonomics or whatever, I mean, we've seen all these people at play, and, they say one thing, they do another, but by and large, we know that they take a lot of loans to pay off loans, right? So that's when, in terms of external solvency, I do not see them. But at the same time, and this is what is puzzling, Faisal, and again, I would like my other colleagues to educate me, is that this is the same government that put on capital controls. I mean, if you recall, post the nuclear explosion, it was this PMLN government that actually froze all dollar accounts, right? So we have that.
I still remember the actual price was pretty high, and they were offering at rupees 47 a dollar at that time, sir. Yes.
Yeah, and actually,
and you could only withdraw in rupees.
Saga of manipulation of foreign exchange that came after that, right? Which was
if I may intervene, Amer, Zafar, do you think if there is a financial crunch, because the history tells us that Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz has done that before also, do you think they can do it again? Let's surprise the viewers.
I think there's a lot more. No. I think that, there's a lot more at stake. But yes, you see, the problem is I don't want to say anything on this program which can be speculative and just basically get a run going, because I think what has been happening.
So the stock markets, they work on speculations and rumors.
I totally agree with you. That's why I don't do much with the stock markets. Also, I look at them with divine disdain, but I do keep a tab on them. Now, tell me, why exactly has the dollar weakened by almost 4 or 5 rupees? I mean, why? Give me one damn good macro reason for that to happen. Look at the stock market rising 1,700 points in one day. Give me one damn good macro reason for that to happen. So, I mean, I'm sorry I'm asking questions in response to your questions. But
I agree with you, because I would also be as blank as you are that why is it happening? I mean, the fundamentals are different. Situation is different. Have they found a gold mine or something? I mean, that's different then.
No, but let me just posit the last point. I mean, the last thing I really want to bring, I mean, the gentleman, because I'm not directly on TV, I didn't know who's the other speaker, but I do believe I've met him. He's the gentleman from the
Amer, Zafar, we have with us Sardar Yasir Khan in the studio, and we also have with us Abid Qaiyum Suleri.
Yeah. So Sardar actually mentioned something about the point of view of the businessman. Now, really, Sardar, I know you and I always agree when we are on the program together, but let me be very forthright with you. I think the point of view of the Pakistani businessman is a very strange point of view. It's a point of view that's driven by rents and subsidies and no change in policies. Well, I agree there should be no change in policies. But if we've had bad policies and, subsidy-driven, incentive-driven, and mistargeted private sector, then it has to change. And but the good news is I at least have an answer on that. I don't see that changing with the incoming government, because this government is definitely a crowd pleaser, and I don't know what they will do, but definitely they will try and please the usual suspects in the trade associations. But I'll stop here, Faisal, before I get kicked off the program.
No, don't worry, sir. Relax. I mean, one has to talk and one has to throw light on the truth and the realities. This is what our job is. Now, coming to you, Suleri Saab, I think I'm going to ask you the shortest question that has ever been put by me to any expert. The question is, now what?
Well, I think the new government, they would find it extremely difficult to manage economy because of the expectations that they have built around their campaign, Mangai Macau March, where providing relief to people, reducing inflation. That is not going to happen. And the reason is right now we are facing some sort of short-term balance of payment crisis. And short-term because only last month, if you look at the State Bank's reserves, those got reduced by $5 billion. Why they got reduced by $5 billion, and it would partly address Amer Saab's question why we saw dollar price soaring very high, because some of the friendly countries, they were waiting for a stable government in Islamabad to come so that they can roll over their deposits in State Bank of Pakistan. So Pakistan had to actually pay those deposits, and then of course there was, due to political uncertainty, the panic dollar buying. So right now we require this IMF support. By 30th of June, we have to pay another $2.5 billion as debt repayment. And IMF, what is it is going to ask in order to conclude this seventh staff level review, IMF would be asking to jack up the price of petrol and diesel and electricity, basically rolling back of Prime Minister Imran Khan's relief package, which now has become unsustainable because of depreciation of rupee, because of high prices of energy that is hit now. All the deals and all the consignments for which the order were placed back in March, now when they are arriving now, they are expensive. So simply saying that the relief package is not sustainable anymore. And the moment this PDM coalition government, they would increase price of petrol by 30 to 35 per liter, and diesel by another 30 to 35 rupees per liter, and electricity by 2 to 3 rupees per unit, it would actually increase inflation. So first thing, if they try to resort to populist measure, then God forbid, we can see what is happening in Sri Lanka with Rajapaksa's all the populist measure, and if they would try to be
seeking for $3 billion now to get out of that mess.
So sorry?
I'm saying the Sri Lankan government is seeking for $3 billion to get out of what is happening.
Yeah.
Their rupee is touching almost 330 rupees. And I remember about 4 years ago, it was equivalent to our rupee. And at one stage, it was stronger.
Only in March, it was 200 rupees per dollar, because Sri Lankan Reserve Bank, for 5 months, they pegged the rupee against dollar. They kept on burning their reserves, and that's why right now their reserve, they amount to 150 million, not billion, 150 million dollar. So they are literally on the verge to default. So in order to avoid Pakistan from this situation, the new government, they would have to take some realistic, unpopular measures at the cost of their political capital. So if people, they are expecting any relief in inflation, if they are expecting any relief in prices, in my reading, that's not going to happen. And we should actually, as independent economists, should support macroeconomic stability. We should ask for targeted subsidies. We should ask for strengthening the existing social safety nets. But at the same time, we should also ask for higher prices of energy for those who can afford to pay.
One important factor, sir, and because this is a political question, but because this is a reality also. When you hear the Russian spokesperson saying, or even in the media is reporting, that Imran Khan has been ousted because the Americans were behind this entire move. I mean, this is what even PTI is saying. And so if the Americans are supporting, let's suppose, and if there is a regime change, let's assume for a moment, that means that, as far as FATF is concerned, you could be put back into the regular list, the white list as they call it. What about the conditions set by the IMF? There could be some sort of relaxation in those, and perhaps you can get more money. Do you think that is the right way forward, sir? And also GSP Plus.
On FATF, I can see we will be graduating from grey list to white list. And because Hafiz Saeed, if you remember, I think in this all the saga of no confidence movement, we couldn't actually highlight the news. He has been given 32 years in jail prison for terrorism financing, and that was one of the preconditions of Pakistan getting graduated from grey list to white list.
And interestingly, The Indian media was reporting it on every other channel. I think it was about 3 days ago. Not even a single story. Called up my friend last night, had a word with him, and he confirmed that yes, it is
Yes,
like that,
it
and he
was.
has been
Yeah,
jailed or
and that,
whatever. So there you go.
and
Please
that
go
was
ahead.
the last obstacle for Pakistan
That
to
was
get
the actual
graduated.
bone of contention in FATF. FATF, wasn't it? Suleri Saab, you were a part of that team.
Yes, so it was the actual bone of contention. That's why I'm saying it, that I can see that we would be graduating from grey list to white list because of that act. On IMF, we would have to see that how good the next finance minister he can engage with the IMF team here. So IMF was looking for some stable government stability. IMF would be requiring a couple of assurances from PDM government. You remember that PDM has been quite vocal of scrapping State Bank autonomy bill. So IMF would like to keep that intact. PDM was quite vocal in scrapping this mini budget and giving exemptions to GST. IMF would certainly like to keep them intact, and IMF would like to see the relief package getting rolled back. So all these three things, especially relief package getting rolled back, are not providing any exemption on GST. They would it would mean that business as usual. So the prices those would remain high. So if the prices they remain high, PDM government, they would have to actually compromise with IMF. They would have to compromise with the people, and this is the only way forward that I can see. The relief that I can see coming is this rolling over of Saudi Arabian deposits in State Bank and Chinese deposits in State Bank, which of course they are waiting for the new government to come in, and then they would oblige the new government by keeping these deposits in State Bank. And that would ease off our balance of payment crisis.
All right, all right. Now coming back to you, Sardar Sahab, now plenty. Number one, that the fuel prices, they will go up. So inflation is going to skyrocket and hit the roof. Your payments as far as your debt is concerned, that is enormous. Well, IMF can give you a bailout package, and then we should not blame the IMF that why do we go to them. They don't come to you, you go to them, remember. They're like a bank. And then you talk about price hike in electricity. Obviously, if this particular war regarding Ukraine goes on, there's going to be pretty uncertain behavior of the oil prices. Perhaps they will go further up. Oil imports, we all know. The trade deficit is already widening, sir. You hardly have any export as such, sir, to be very honest. Yeah. Imports, I mean, you've been increasing the tax on that, but still you need certain things. I mean, you can't run your car on ghee. You need to have some sort of decent fuel for that. The point is, sir, that this is going to be very difficult for the upcoming government to take unpopular decisions, and Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz is known for taking popular decisions because for the masses. How do you see this, sir? And do you think if Finance Minister is Sardar Saab, or along with the other gentleman from Karachi who was his advisor also, Miftah Ismail, I still remember when the dollar went up to 106 rupees. Interestingly, $3 billion, please correct me if I'm wrong, were released by the State Bank of Pakistan to bring it down into double digits, and it happened. And I remember Sheikh Rashid Saab at that particular time said this is very artificial. Trust me, this is going to be a problem. And this is exactly what we witnessed. It doubled almost when when you're talking about the open market. So this particular challenge, sir, do you think the unpopular decisions taken by the will be taken by the upcoming government, sir?
Well, this is exactly it. If you look at the past, are you looking at the short term, or are you looking at the long term? And if I was in your position, I would look at the long term sustainable economic development side. Primarily, you've got to look at the devaluation of the rupee. That's important because that is primarily dependent on everything. You're importing, you're manufacturing, you're exporting. So all of that revolves around where your value is with regards to rupee and the dollar. If you look at the current scenario, IMF has been dictating everything because they're your lender, and the lender has a right to dictate. If you look at the recent mini budget, that was given by the IMF. So the IMF had dictated and stipulated that we need 700 billion impact to be passed on to your economy, and we need that money back. The government was kind enough not to pass on 700 billion. In turn, they only passed on about 300 billion. So that was a minor impact as compared to how much more it could have gone. The government coming in now has to first and foremost maintain a trust between the public. So there was a trust deficit in the past, which was decreased over the last 3 years. Now I need to know where it is today and where it's going to be in the next 5 years. The reason I'm asking that is the budget can only be balanced if you're able to gain the people's confidence and their trust. Because we had looked at a tax collection target of about 3,800 billion from 2018 all the way till today, where we're looking at 6,800, 6,500 billion. It's a huge increment. Question is it people like me who are paying the additional tax, or is it more volume oriented, or more people in Pakistan? So we need to get more people in this tax net. So that's the first thing I would do, to be able to balance the budget. So if there's enough tax collection.
So that's how I'm in media and in the economic reporting for the last 22 years. I've seen same faces in different parties holding the same position. Like the finance minister, for example, who was from Sindh, Dr. Abdul Sheikh. Who is the finance minister of Sindh, Pakistan People's Party, then PTI, and God knows which parties. I haven't heard from him, haven't even seen a single statement in the recent times. But he was the man calling the shots. Now, just give me one example. And we have identified 200,000 people. We have identified 100,000 people. We know nothing. No tax on agriculture. 1% only when it comes to your services sector of the retail and the wholesale. Unpopular decision. And in this particular government, sir, is the government of traders. People support Mian Nawaz Sharif and Mian Shehbaz Sharif for their decision making in that particular regard. A lot of relief is given to them. So, sir, if they are not paying the taxes and relief is being given to them, what are we talking about
unfair,
here,
isn't it?
And who is going to suffer the most? Yes. The people who are already paying the taxes. Yes. They'll be squeezed more and more and more and more till the juice is out and only the skin is left. Yes. How much can you extract more from the skin, sir? Yes.
That's the question. The thing, that's a burden. I mean, collectively, if you look at the net impact, you're looking at well over 50% on an average taxpayer, which is unfair. It should be lower than that, and it should be equally distributed across the whole nation. And everyone should take ownership and should contribute what their share is. And that's the only way we can move forward. And we've talked about this time and time again, that the infrastructure development, the main sectors which are suffering are healthcare and education. And you'll only be able to spend on those sectors if you have the fund available. The other thing that no government has done till date, which they must do, restructuring of all government-owned enterprises. You're looking at well over 200. If they're restructured, you're going to be laying off a lot of people which are unnecessarily employed. There's huge overhead, so you've got to do that. You've got to privatize a lot of these as well.
So Pakistan People's Party, for that matter, that is going to be a part of the upcoming government, they are known to give jobs. I mean, if you have one car, they will end up keeping 25 drivers. You understand that everybody needs to drive it for an hour. The point is that if this is the mindset, look what has it resulted in. Collapse of PIA, steel mill, all the government entities which were profit oriented.
They're all losing money right now.
They're losing money. They're almost bankrupt.
Yeah. And that's where your IMF fund is going. So when you're looking at the budget, a huge amount is going towards all these expenditures which are not required. And this money could be better spent on Pakistan. Circular debt is there. Now we're looking at the tariffs. Look, if you increase the tariffs now, we were just competitive during COVID-19 because the tariffs were reduced and we were given some form of incentive for all the manufacturing facilities. If you look at agro and you're talking about the manufacturing society, if you're looking at the produce, just now we had the wheat numbers. We're about 2 million tons short. So therefore, we're not going to be able to export wheat again this year, and we're looking at a deficit, and we're going to be importing.
We had a deal with the Russians of 2 million, if I'm not wrong. Is it still on? Or
I have no idea where it stands. I have no idea where it stands as of today, but what's
they'll be under pressure not to take it from Russia.
Going to be importing. You know what? I was approached recently by a country from Central Asia, and they were looking to import wheat from Pakistan. I passed them on to our.
But sir, we have a habit to export it on a lower price and then import the same wheat back on a higher price.
We then find out that
there are people who make money out of it.
We should not have a shortfall. We should be in a position to have ample supply and ample produce. Now, the one more thing that the government had initiated was farm to market. A farm-to-market concept where there would be no middlemen, you'd be able to capitalize on your direct sale, and a farmer would be able to benefit and he'll enhance his production base, but that's not happening. In terms of the manufacturing, again, going back to that, look, this government finally gave the industrial sector a package, just how they did to a construction sector, and if they're able to do that, if that continued, the manufacturing units would expand and be able to produce many more. So we had all these new SECs coming in because of CPEC. CPEC needs to continue at the same pace it was, or it needs to expand at a much better pace. The building and development of dams needs to continue. These are are basic things. If this doesn't happen, we're going to again look at a contraction, and a contraction is going to lead to more imports, and we're not going to be able to grow because you're looking at the consumer base, which is dependent on all these imports. We're not producing anything locally, and that has to stop. So this government needs to focus on that, enhancing our exports to a significant number, whether it's IT, whether it's automobile, whether it's mobile phones, or all the other allied things that you can think of. The 50, 60 sectors are just construction related. Look at tile manufacturing, look at light manufacturing, the facade, curtain wall, aluminum, glass. There's a number of things. I mean,
whatever is used in a house.
Yes. So why can't we do it? There's a huge demand. I mean, with the low-cost housing initiative that was taken by the government of Pakistan with the former PM, that was based on the demand. There's a demand of about 12 million units today. So them making 5 million was based on that demand. It was low cost so that the average person could afford a shelter, above their head, which is their fundamental right. And healthcare. I mean, why did they focus so much on healthcare? Basic necessities. So nobody would go and have to commit robbery or corruption. To mitigate corruption, your minimum wage has to be increased, which is what they've done. But I can't foresee that continuing exactly based on these constraints. That what is the government going to focus and prioritize on? Are they going to prioritize on manufacturing? They're looking at exports. Are they looking at diversification into different? I mean, this is what we need. We need import diversification. We need export substitution. This is basic areas where we're still depending on textile. We're just basically depending on rice, and these are basics. You need to go far above that. You need to focus on IT. You need to focus on many more products that Pakistan can offer. Marketing services. We can offer consultancy. We can offer architectural services. There's so much more that we can look at, but we don't have that focus. We don't have the priority. We're not focusing on developing our human resource, and we've said this again and again, that 50% plus is below the age of 35. That raw human talent. Look at tourism. We've talked about this sector which no government has worked on, and finally this recent government was focusing on tourism, where they gave an incentive on allowing people to get some form of relaxation on import duties.
Once Maulana Ataur Rehman, brother of Maulana Fazlur Rehman, was your tourism minister, federal minister for tourism. I hope he comes back again as an advisor, because most likely he's going to bring in a lot of change. He's so innovative, so full of ideas. I really wish him good luck.
What about medical tourism? There's another sector I'm talking about. People haven't even think about this. I mean, no one explored. You know what? People from the Middle East are going to India for medical reasons,
even from
medical
Pakistan.
treatment. But that's the thing. Why can't we have that? We have the same level of competence, same level of expertise, more experience. We have a doctor who deals with 1,000 cases perhaps in a couple of months, as compared to a doctor over there who deals with a couple of hundred cases. So based on that experience, all we need is transfer of technology and value addition. For that, the government needs to incentivize and produce and give relaxation on imports for sectors which have the potential to grow significantly, or leaps and bounds. And this can only be done if the government takes people like us on board, asks for our advice, the right man for the right job approach. Not just the same people, the same basket, the same faces, the same portfolios. That's not going to bring change.
All right. Durrani Saab, now as our friend Sardar Saab just mentioned that, same faces, same people with same portfolios, they've been in power for a very long time. Whether you talk about Punjab, that is around 65% of the total population of Pakistan, or when you talk about serving at the federal level, Mian Nawaz Sharif Saab was the Prime Minister not once, not twice, rather thrice, could be the Prime Minister, let's say in the upcoming elections also, for the 4th time. Do you think, sir, same people, same faces, same attitude is going to bring in some sort of a change as far as the economy is concerned? Because people are really concerned about the economy. If Imran Khan was ousted, one of the major reasons was growing inflation. Though he had kept the unemployment at around 4.7%, which was the lowest in the region. But having said that, sir, people care about the prices of tomato, for that matter. On the 1st of Ramadan, the prices of tomato were tripled. I don't know whether it was the lack of supply or more demand, or perhaps as we call it, the attitude of the people, the idea of hoarding and all that.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, it's a very long question. I think that let me break it down into a few parts. The first part, what to expect of the incoming government. I mean, these people have been around. So I think the first thing I see happening is, as
because
we do
Naseem Zahra in one of her interviews asked the incoming Prime Minister, Mr. Shehbaz Sharif, that what sort of a political agenda do you have? What sort of a solution or a remedy can you, tell us about? And he was blank.
No, I mean, he will be blank because, I mean, let me break it down in a slightly more interesting and demographic fashion. So the average age of the government has suddenly arisen, okay? So let's keep that in mind. So despite whatever, inexperience, but the average age of the government, barring obviously the Commerce SAPM and a few other of the age-old hanger-ons that we have, with all due respect to them, the average age of the government is going to go up. What does that really mean? The first thing is that, when the average age of the government goes up, the solutions go backward. Right? So in other words, they look for solution in the 20th century for problems that are 21st century problems. That's number one. So that is why you will find Shawaz Sharif blank. That is why you'll find Bilawal blank. Because Bilawal technically, is not really a man with a 21st century brain. The other important thing that we need to understand is that the problem of Pakistan, and I think, and I again have to quote Asad Zaman on this, and Abid Suleri Sahab may agree or disagree with me on this, but the problem of Pakistan right now is not one of economics, it's a problem of statecraft. And what do I mean by it being a problem of statecraft is that, and again a saying not mine but Maslow's, is that, to a man with a hammer, all objects look like a nail. The thing is that, this is really kind of summarizes in my mind of what to expect when when this old new government walks in. Because, they really don't have much up their sleeves in terms of consulting. Who are they going to talk to? What are they going to do? How are their policies going to get consensus? So I think that I will be a bit on the side of what Abid said, and also of Sardar's. Abid said something saying that they will have to take tough decisions. So let's forget about, guessing on what they can do or will do. Let's tell them that they must do. Okay, so they have to get back into fixing the capital account. They have to do what is the tactical retreat, which includes capital controls, conveying foreign loans, import substitution to some extent, and export growth, but not the way it's done. And the second part, where I think I have to agree with Sardar, is let's understand, if you are going to walk up to the same people, and I don't want to name them on TV because it now really has started to hurt me, because it's been 34 years that we have been watching these same people. Please don't call in any of the usual suspects. They don't know what to do. They weren't able to do it first time, second time, third time, fourth time. It's time to get a new team. And by a new team, I really don't want you to import people from the Institute of Peace like Imran Khan did. I want you to actually bring in some of the local people who are sitting in the Pakistan Institute of Development Economics, who are sitting in SDPI. Well, they had Abid, but I think I also need to change Abid from there and get some of the younger lot in there. Sorry, Abid. But at the end of the day, I think that there
Abid Sahib is a young dude, man, at heart.
Some innovation. Yeah. I'm sorry. He's going to beat me up. I know. Okay, but the third point I want to make very quickly. I think we need to now, we are talking as if this government has come in for 5 years. Well, they are praying they are here for 5 years, but the government's not here for 5 years. This new government is here at the maximum for a year and a half, and, minimum if things go right for less than 3 months. So when we talk about giving the government advice and what we expect them to do, I think I will again and again regurgitate and harp back on saying, forget about how to bring growth. Get back into the problem of resolving your external solvency. Do the renegs, as Abid was saying. Get the Paris Club.
Durrani, I think growth is going to definitely be there, but it is going to take some time if the policies are consistent and right. Now,
no. This is not a game. I disagree, Faisal. Sorry, I've never done this on your show, but I really have to politely allow me to disagree, because at the end of the day, look, there is no time to get consistency in anything. The thing is, right now we have an immediacy of resolving our solvency issue, getting our capital account right. So they have to take some tough decisions which Suleri Sahib was talking about. There are things about raising tariffs, things about making sure that the petrol and diesel goes up by 40%.
But do you think the incoming government is going to take those unpopular decisions just to make sure that things do get well in Pakistan? Because, Durrani Sahib, at the end of the day, they have to contest in the elections also. And if they do not perform...
I know that. But again, gentle sir, let me allow to say the last piece. So what is the alternate? Now, the alternate is really mind-boggling, The alternative is mind-boggling, because possibly what these people will do is, number one, as was being mentioned again by Abid, that we will consider, and Sardar also I think alluded to that, that maybe at the end of the day what's going to happen is that they are going to be on the right side of the West, the traditional West, right? So by doing that, the fund's going to come in, the program, they're going to set some conditions, they'll shut their eyes on 50%, they're going to open their eyes on 50% and say, okay, let's work with Pakistan, because obviously the Uncle Sam has told them to. Number two, that despite all that, China, and the Shahbaz Sharif is quite close to China, so I mean he brings in this peddling charm and everything about being Punjab's speed game back, and CPEC rises up, and CPEC goes back to its traditional clothes. Then we have some rolling over of 2 billion or more from China, which was about to happen, by the way, anyways. We have, because of Nawaz Sharif's thing, oil is renegotiated. So, I think that this will just be delaying Pakistan. I think that is a more likely path.
So at the end of the day, we just hope and pray everything gets better for Pakistan. So last comment from you, Suleri Saab, two important points. As you mentioned, that energy cost is going to go up by, let's say, 30, 40 rupees. If that is, I mean, I'm not energy cost, I'm talking about the fuel prices. If, let's suppose, it hovers well over 120, 25, perhaps $130, which is possible because of the current global crisis. My question to you, sir, is that in that kind of a scenario where the energy cost is going to go up, fuel prices will definitely go up, your inflation is going to hit the roof. Whatever decisions you will take, we'll see. But having said that, sir, it's not going to be an easy ride for the incoming government of Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz and People's Party, despite the fact that it's a coalition of a very different kind of mindsets. But still, let's suppose they gel together and they work for the betterment of Pakistan. Sir, energy crisis, imports, export, everything is related to the energy cost, the input cost, sir. And on top, if it is available, what we have witnessed in the past, whether you talk about PPP's government or PMLN's government, sir, even in a city like Islamabad, we have witnessed load shedding of 12 hours a day. Your take, sir. Last question. Suleri Saab. I think Suleri Saab is paused. I think we just lost him. Would you like
So
to respond
basically,
to that?
it revolves around the same thing. If you're going to work on your primary sectors where you're going to be able to get contribution from, we didn't talk about minerals, we didn't talk about gems, we didn't talk about jewels, we didn't talk about mangoes, apples. We're talking about areas where we can store fruits and vegetables for 6 months and export them towards the local region. Look, if the government needs to really focus on the futuristic visionary approach, they need to focus on alternatives. We need to stop depending on these foreign fundings, whether they're coming from China or Saudi Arabia or from the US. That's the first thing. Second thing is work on your exports. If we can take Pakistan's exports, which we can, well above $100 billion, that is the only way this country is going to be able to survive. Otherwise, you're very much looking at a bankruptcy scenario. If you're not going to do it now in the short term, in the long term, that's exactly what's going to happen, because the collective debt has to be paid off over the next 100 years.
All right. All right. Suleri Saab, last 1 minute comment from you, sir. Rising oil prices. Availability of electricity in the coming days, sir. The summer season is here. The prices, no matter they increase by 20 rupees or 30 rupees per unit or whatever. What I'm saying is, sir, availability, because I earlier had put this question to Sardar Sahab, that during the previous two governments, I mean rather three governments, PPP and PMLN, we have witnessed 12 to 14 to 16 hours of load shedding. In cities 12, in rural areas perhaps 18 to 20 hours a day, sir. Now what? Quick comment, Suleri Saab.
Unfortunately, it would be a harsh summer. Right now, the prices of crude are slightly moderate because of strict lockdown in China. So that has impacted the global demand on energy. But going forward, one can hope that in a month's time, the COVID situation in China, the Omicron situation in China would be quite under control, and that would again give rise to more increased demand of energy. So in case of Pakistan, if we increase the prices of electricity, if we increase the prices of petrol and diesel, there will not be an issue of availability, it would be issue of affordability. If we kept on providing subsidy on energy, PSO is already going to default. PSO is not able to open any LC for import of crude because of energy circular debt. So PSO's receivable have crossed almost 800 million rupees, which is a huge amount. So, of course, one has to see that if our main national oil company, if it is in debts amounting to 850 billion rupees energy circular debt, so either we can think of affordability or we can think of availability. And I would go for availability, even if it's at expensive rate, provided there are social protection measures and there are targeted subsidies for those who cannot afford it.
All right. Thank you very much, Suleri Saab. Thank you so much, Durrani Saab. Sardar Saab, it was a pleasure having you, sir.
Likewise.
Thank you very much for your presence also, sir, and for your input as well. And that's all we have for this hour. God bless Pakistan. Khuda Hafiz.